Hey, this is Patrick at Table Mountain Vineyards and Winery, and we're going to do a quick pruning tutorial for all you backyard growers out there to maybe help you kind of learn how to prune and some of the basics of pruning. Right here we have two of our oldest vines. These guys are going into their 14th growing season, so as you can see here, they're very well developed in their trunk, and they had a lot of growth last year. This is a variety called the Vineyard, which is a little wilder than some traditional grapes that we're growing in Wyoming, but this was one of the first vines that we were able to establish and get going. So if you look here, this older wood we like to call the trunk. And the way this grapevine is actually trained is known as a four-arm niffin system. And it gets its name by the arms. You can see 1, 2, 3, and 4. And basically once that trunk and the arms are developed, all of this growth that comes out of here then becomes the cane. And on each one of these canes is an actual fruiting bud. And the thing to understand about grapes is the actual fruit comes off of last year's growth. So any cut we make here, we're actually affecting next year's growth, but we're actually dealing with what happened last year. And the most fruitful buds will be here closer to the vine. So up to about bud number 7 is where you're going to get the most production in the fruit. And what we'd like to see in a grapevine for production is to keep all of the new canes from growing down here. And that allows the vine to put all of its energy up here. So now we're going to make a few cuts and walk through kind of how we cut the grapevine. So this one, like I said, has a lot going on in it, and we're just going to focus on one arm right here. And what I like to kind of recommend is with each of the 4 arms is to really do a balanced pruning approach. And so that's cutting these canes back to about 3 to 4 buds each. And so each arm, then we like to have 10 to 15 buds, or about 90 to 100 buds for the entire vine. And while it's going to look like we're really going to cut this vine down, once you start growing grapes, you'll realize that you need to slow them down and kind of keep this growth from getting out of control. So we're just going to come and cut right here, and basically, like I said, work on a balanced pruning approach. And as you can see from this cane that I cut, or the shoot that I cut, we've got green in here, so that means it survived the winter. And the buds are just starting to swell, so we've got a little time before actual bud break happens. So we'll just go in here and make a few choices. And when you're cutting the canes off, I like to kind of use a hand spacing approach. So I like to have 3 buds coming up on a cane, about the width of your palm or your hand, and then go to the next one. Like I said, usually leaving about 5 between the vine. I always like to also leave, I don't know if you can see this, but a new cane so we can start new wood here as this one's starting to get old. So we leave 1 to 2 buds here. This bud will develop, will come out here and become the new arm for generations or growing seasons down the road. And I also do suggest, if you've got an older vine, to use some cane loppers, because some of this wood, if you're going to start attacking that, you'll need some good strong arms and some bigger pruners to get going. So I'm using the hand space here. So I'm just cutting some of these guys out that we really don't want to be productive. And the most productive wood will be a bright cherry red. And that indicates that it's not winter damaged and it was good wood from last year. And as you can see here, if you don't do a good job in the summer, like apparently we didn't, you can get a really long cane growing where you don't want it to. This is also a very good therapeutic release. I always recommend to people to think about politics and whatever side you're against, take it out on the vine, because again, you have to be tough on these vines to make them grow in Wyoming. And again, just cutting out some old wood, cutting this back completely. And I also always suggest wearing sunglasses or some kind of protective eye gear, because you'd be surprised how many times these shoots somehow make it into your eye. So we'll just kind of clean this guy up here. We've got a nice renewal cane right here, so we can bring a new wood. I'm just cleaning some of this older wood out. Getting rid of some wood on the second arm here. And as you can see from where we started, it looked like this, and now we're down to here. And we really have about 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 new fruiting buds. And there's about 3 buds on that cane here, so we're talking about 15 potential fruiting buds that will all fruit and carry the fruit forward. As spring comes, we'll get hit with some late frost, some early frost, different things like that. And so sometimes we'll leave a few extra buds just to basically sacrifice them to the oncoming frost. And one good thing to remember also is you can always go back and cut a little more out, but once the vines get established, they're so strong you aren't going to hurt them that much. This is Patrick again at Table Mountain Vineyards, and basically this is what a vine looks like unpruned. And then we'll go over here to the vine that we were working on from the last post, kind of like those cooking shows when they tell you it takes 4 or 5 hours to prep and then suddenly and magically it happens. So as you can look here, we've cut a lot of wood out. Here's a lot of the cuttings just laying here on the vineyard floor. And we probably left a few more buds than we usually do on this. The Valiants are pretty tenacious, so they can handle it. And as you can see here, we have some nice green cuts coming into the vine. And we actually made a very kind of big decision up here. We cut the old cane out and went ahead and started with this new one, which we had started training last year. So each one of these is going to come out with a bud, growing new laterals, which will be our wood for next year. So we're actually starting over with one arm of this vine. So this one's a little heavier, probably 120 buds, but as you can see, we have all the growth on the bottom cleaned out, and it's a good start, and we'll see what spring will do for us. And for any of those wanting to become a certified pruner, you are more than welcome to come visit us, because as you can see here, we've got a little bit of pruning to do. This is our old vine site, about 300 vines here. We have about 10,000 vines total. So bring your pruners, we'll provide them if you don't have any, and come help us out and get some pruning lessons. Till next time.